In this forecast, several rounds of severe weather is expected over the next several days, with tornadoes and large hail being concerns. The low-level jet will be increasing in the northeast this afternoon, bringing a potential for tornadoes. And significant hailstorms could be occurring tonight. All of that and more is coming right up. Hey everybody, welcome back to a Max Velocity weather forecast, and today what we're going over is that big severe weather potential across the Northeast, Northern Plains, Midwest, and Ohio Valley over the next 4 days. Yes, it's a elongated amount of severe weather that we're expecting in some of these locations over the next several days. I'm going to give you this breakdown, the timing, intensity, everything that you need to know will be in this forecast. Let's hop right into today's severe weather outlook. We currently have a slight risk of severe weather up in New England. Now, why is this a big concern? Well, we do have that potential for a few tornadoes later this afternoon. There is a slight risk that includes areas from western New Hampshire down to northern Maryland. That's currently our risk for today. There's also a marginal risk of severe weather that extends outside of there, all the way out toward Maine and all the way into portions of Virginia. The main threats today, again, will be that potential for some damaging winds, isolated large hail, but most concerningly, a few tornadoes may be possible. And the most concerning area for this threat this afternoon will likely be in western New Hampshire, back out into eastern New York, that brown shaded region, indicating the best chance for some of these cells to rotate and potentially produce a couple of tornadoes. Now, outside of that region, we still have a green shaded area that represents a very low chance for an isolated tornado or two, but we definitely could see a couple outside of that brown shaded region that does extend all the way into Virginia and as well as into eastern Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And again, it looks to be that this area here will have the best chance, but again, we might see a couple of tornadoes outside that region later this afternoon. Let's hop into the timing today. We'll start to see some showers and storms develop this afternoon. We have a lot of rain out there right now, but we'll start to see some of these cells rotate, especially on the eastern side of this low. The low is back out here to the west. We'll start to see some storms though developing, especially in this region here early this afternoon, as early as 12 to 1 o'clock. These storms will be again having the capability of some rotation, and again, we might see an isolated tornado or two out of these cells. By 2 to 3 o'clock, we'll start to see those storms eventually moving into western Connecticut and western Massachusetts. Eventually, by about 4 to 5 o'clock, storms are moving into New England. And again, this is just one computer model, but we're expecting most of these storms to kind of enter into New England in terms of at least the potential for a tornado threat, probably between the hours of 3 to 6 o'clock tonight. By about 6 to 7 o'clock, storms are again in New England. We might see a few storms behind that. Those are not expected to be that severe. Just cannot rule out maybe an isolated severe storm, but overall it should be staying very minimal. By 11 to 12 o'clock, New York will be clearing out for most of the activity in terms of severe weather and as well as rain overall. Here's a look at the timing back down in southern New England, a better look at it. So you can see by 4 to 5 o'clock, storms moving through areas like Hartford, as well as Springfield. Might also potentially see 1 or 2 back up in northern Massachusetts or southern Vermont. Definitely not out of the question. Then by 6 to 7 o'clock, storms will be kind of weakening out as they get closer to the coastline overall. By 9 to 10 o'clock, we might still have some storms still left over, but overall, again, storms after about 8 to 9 o'clock will be very ordinary for the most part. Very limited severe weather is expected after midnight tonight. We also have another big area of severe weather potential today. That does include areas in the far northern plains near Canada. As of right now, North Dakota is basically in 3 different shaded regions. An enhanced risk for far northern North Dakota, as well as a slight and marginal risk, which almost includes the entire state. There's also one going into northeastern Montana, all the way through actually Michigan. So this is a pretty large risk today. Overall, the main threats will be damaging winds and potentially some significant large hail. We're talking to the potential for up to tennis ball to baseball sized hail. Primarily, that threat will stay in that hatched region, which does include northwestern North Dakota and as well as northeastern portions of Montana this afternoon and again into the evening hours. And here's a look at the low-level jet, by the way. What is causing all this severe weather back out here to the west? Well, that all has to do with this trough that we have kind of centered just off to the northwest right now in Montana. And that, again, will be a very strong trough overall. It will weaken a bit as it moves off to the east, but it will stay very prominent. It'll bring that severe weather potential to the Midwest tomorrow, and eventually going into the following day on Thursday, we'll see some more severe weather back over into New England. So it's going to be an elongated amount of severe weather that we're expecting over the next several days. Here's a look at the severe weather, though. Tonight, we'll start to see some storms firing up back out to the west by 9 to 10 o'clock. Again, storms moving through areas in northern North Dakota. These are the ones that are going to be the most concerning for that damaging wind threat, as well as potentially some large to very large hail. By 11 to 12 o'clock, storms moving through again extreme northern portions of North Dakota, and eventually going into the overnight hours, we might see more storms. And again, these could also be posing a severe weather potential for maybe some damaging winds or very large hail. Very low end tornado threat does exist today. Going into the morning hours tomorrow, we'll start to see some more showers and storms kind of moving down to the south and southeast. Those will be associated with tomorrow's severe weather event, which does include, again, areas up in the Midwest. That includes Wisconsin and as well as Minnesota. And it goes as far east as Michigan as of right now. Main threats can be damaging winds, but it cannot rule out, again, isolated large hail. A very low tornado threat, I believe, does exist in central portions of Wisconsin as of right now. Again, very low-end threat tomorrow, but a main threat will be damaging winds without a doubt. Here's a look at the severe weather potential going to the following day. On Wednesday, we have a slight risk back out in the Ohio Valley. That includes Ohio, western Pennsylvania, extreme southwestern New York, and western West Virginia. Main threats can be damaging winds and maybe some isolated large hail. Again, I cannot rely on isolated tornado. Going into Thursday, we have a slight risk of severe weather as well. That does include almost all of New England, and that will be again for that potential for damaging winds, maybe some isolated large hail, and another isolated tornado threat will exist. Then we'll have more details on both Wednesday and Thursday's event coming up in our next forecast. Stay tuned. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you're not already. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting and All Denser.